Calling this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. My name's James Bell, and tonight I'll be serving as chair. This is the meeting for June 6, 2024. We will hear the cases in order that they appear on the agenda. The first matter of business is citizens' comments. Any citizens wishing to appear at a regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding any matter posted on the agenda was to sign up no later than 6 p.m. on the day of the meeting. If anyone signed up to speak, they will have 3 minutes to speak. Staff will time each citizen and provide a warning when they have 30 seconds left. I know we have one person signed up, Terry Holman.
Thank you. I'm Terry Holman with Hugo Reed & Associates. Our address is 1601 Avenue N. As you're probably well aware, I'm speaking on the work session item tonight. As you're well aware, I'm a member of a small group of folks in our industry who have worked with city staff to refine the UDC as best as we can, and I know you guys are going to be discussing some possible amendments tonight. I only wanted to just have you hear it from us that we've been having some very productive discussions with staff over the last few months, and I think from the get-go, we were already sort of a like mind on, the items that we all felt kind of needed to be brushed up a little bit. And so I know you're going to have an opportunity to maybe dig into that this evening. One of the other items that we brought up is just generally, we would like to see the landscaping and buffer yard requirements be looked at a little bit more carefully, or let's find a way to make it more workable in the marketplace. We don't have anything specific in that regard, but we just want that discussion to continue. We certainly want the development processes to get as streamlined as we can get them. We want the ability to have as much flexibility as we feel like we need to on the platting process and those types of things. None of that is in great detail at this moment, but I just wanted to share with you that we feel like, as on the private side and the public side, that we've all made some pretty good progress, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have for me later on this evening during the work session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Was Terry the only one we had? Okay, thank you. The next matter of business is the approval of the minutes for the May 2nd, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Noble. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gloina. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Next matter of business is the regular agenda. The first item is item 3.1.1, which is a plat vacation. When we call up your plat, the following will occur. Staff will present. Sorry, I'm going off of my stuff, so go to staff. Thank you. You didn't hear me anyway.
All right. Good evening, folks. This is the plat vacation here today. It is, my name is Shane Spencer, by the way, and this is the plat vacation for McCrumman Second, Block 12, Lots 2A and 2B. The applicant is Park Hill, and it is located south of 22nd Street and west of Avenue T. Here is the plat. Here is the previous plat. That the plat we're vacating today was replatting. Staff recommends approval of this plat vacation, and I can take any requests or any questions.
Basically, this was one that was originally a single plat, got divided in half, and now they're going back to one. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Is the applicant or his or her representatives here and wish to speak? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve is presented.
Motion by Mr. Noble,
Second.
second by Mr. Gloina. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Next item of business is item 4.1, zone case number 3310-B. Could we have the staff come forward?
Hello, I'm Victoria Llewellyn, and this is zone case 3310/B. The applicant is 17 Services LLC for SPGO LLC. They're requesting a zone change from office district to neighborhood commercial district. The subject property is located north of 142nd Street and west of Quaker Avenue. We sent out 34 letters, receiving none back. Here's an aerial view. The properties to the north and east are single-family homes, and I'm sorry. I have that over here. The current zoning is office district. The northern and southern properties are zoned office district. The eastern property is zoned neighborhood commercial district, and the western property is zoned low-density single-family. The future land use map designates this for residential low-density uses. Here are some photos of the property and its surroundings. This is a proposed site plan by the applicant and their proposed plat. The proposed neighborhood commercial zoning is along a major street blocking the residential development from high traffic. This request from a NC is more restrictive than OF. Therefore, these proposed zoning requests comply with the comprehensive plan principles. The proposed zone change is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. Located north of 142nd Street and west of Quaker Avenue, the 2018 Master Thoroughfare Plan designates them as a principal arterial modified and a local street. The intended use will be appropriate at this proposed location. Staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions.
Does anyone have questions for the staff? Okay, thank you. Is the applicant or his or her representative here and wish to speak? When you come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Kaylee Hernandez. I work for 17 Services. Address is 1500 Broadway, Suite 203. And the main reason for this rezoning application is the property is approximately 175 feet wide. The client's wanting to divide it into two. And OF has a minimum width of 100 feet. NC has a minimum width of 60 feet. Okay, I'm here if you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in favor of this request? Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve zone case 3310-C. That's the right one. Yes, sorry, -B. 3310-B.
Okay. Have a motion by Mr. Hardaway. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Tomlinson. Do we have any discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Next item is zone case number 3310.
All right, good evening. This is zone case 3310-C. The applicant is AMD Engineering LLC for Quaker 146 Investment Holdings LP. The purpose of this request is a zone change from low-density single-family district SF2 to neighborhood commercial NC. The subject property is located north of 146th Street and is west of Quaker Avenue. And we have sent 16 notifications on this one. We have not received back any in favor or in opposition. Here is the aerial map. The subject property is surrounded by vacant property on all sides. Further to the north, there are some homes that are being built, and further to the south is a golf course. Here is the zoning map. It shows this property and the surrounding property is all zoned low-density single-family district SF2. And the future land use map designates this property for low-density residential land uses. Here are photos of the subject and surrounding property. And here's a diagram provided by the applicant. This property is the one in red. The area in blue is for the next case. The future land use map designates this area for low-density residential land uses. While this request does not conform to this designation, it would be appropriate along a major thoroughfare and the adjacent zoning. Alleys and required buffer yards would provide sufficient barriers from lower intensity uses, and this request would be in moderate conformance with the comprehensive plan principles. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance, and the property is located along a major thoroughfare and is appropriate adjacent to the nearby land uses, and the proposed zone change is compatible with the surrounding area, would not change the character of the existing development. It is located along 146th Street, which is designated as a principal arterial by the Master Thoroughfare Plan 2018. Staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions at this time.
Do we have any questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Sean. Is the applicant or his or her representative here?
Good evening. Corey Doolin with AMD Engineering, 6510 68th Street. So this is a case that was originally going to have two different uses. So that's why we have the two different areas and two different cases. We were going to do office in this section that we're presenting right now, but just like the prior case, doesn't allow for anything narrower than 100 feet. We left them separated in case there was opposition and somebody wanted to just be office, because I feel like with the UDC amendments, we may be getting that fixed so that regular traditional garden office can be built narrower than 100. But that's the reason why they're two separate cases. They're essentially the same type product. So anyway, I'd be happy to answer any questions. He did a great job presenting. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none, is there anyone to speak in favor? Okay, and that will close the public hearing on this one. Is there a motion for,
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
okay, we have a motion by Mr. Noble, second Mr. Hardaway. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I'm just saying that that's a lot of commercial. I mean, that's a lot of commercial on a corner going down. I know across the street's a golf course, and that's all that's gonna be there anyway. But I get concerned when we see that much commercial going along the streets, getting off the major corners.
What is the principal arterial again? The size of it?
What's it? Quaker and 146, isn't it?
Yeah, Quaker's not all the way through.
My understanding is, currently the road isn't through yet. It's not built yet.
Yeah, it's dirt still.
Yes. My understanding is it's going to be a modified principal arterial. I believe that's basically a 5-lane road, 110 width, 110-foot width. Ultimately, that's, I believe, what they're planning on it being. As far as, it's a major thoroughfare. It's meant to handle large traffic, commercial traffic. So it's, for neighborhood commercial, something of a light intensity like that, it makes sense, and it goes along with our comprehensive plan about where neighborhood commercial and things like that should be placed in between the nodes of your major thoroughfare intersections and along those major thoroughfares.
Provide somewhat of a
This is-
buffer
this is-
from the
this
residential
is- here's
behind
the
it.
corner, then you got
Yes,
this place,
yes.
and this is, what we're talking about
No, right
is,
here. Yeah.
is all this down
Yeah,
here.
you're leaving.
Yeah.
No, I
I
understand.
don't have an objection.
No, I understand, but it's a good question to bring
Yeah,
up
I'm
to
just
see.
saying, yeah.
More than likely, if we do this, then you would think the other corner would end up going that way too.
Well, and across the street
It's
is
the
gonna
golf.
it's gonna be backed up to golf course, so,
Yeah,
what are you gonna, you're not gonna put a home there,
no.
so, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I'm ready to vote.
That's okay. Do we have any other discussion? If not, let's go ahead and call the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Next item is case 3096I. Right?
Oh, we skipped the one right there.
Nope. Yep, I flipped the wrong one.
It's gonna sound very
3310D. I'm
familiar.
sorry.
Very
They were
familiar.
too close together there, C and D.
Okay, this is zone case 3310-D. The applicant is AMD Engineering LLC for Quaker 146 Investment Holdings LP, and they're requesting a zone change from SF2 to NC. Subject property is located north of 146th Street and west of Quaker Avenue. On this one, we have sent 21 notifications, and we've received none of them back in response. Here's the aerial map right here. The subject property is surrounded by vacant property on all four sides. Further to the north are homes, and further to the south is a golf course. And the zoning map is a little bit different. Property to the south, west, and north is zoned SF2, but property to the east is zoned for auto urban commercial. The future land use map designates this property for low-density residential land uses. Here are photos of the subject property and surrounding property. Here's a diagram provided by the applicant, and this is the property in blue. The future land use map designates this area for low-density residential land uses. This request does not conform to that designation, but it would be appropriate along a major thoroughfare and the adjacent zoning. Alleys and required buffer yards would provide sufficient barriers from lower intensity uses. Therefore, this request is in moderate conformance with the comprehensive plan principles. The proposed zone changes in conformance with the zoning ordinance, and the proposed zone changes compatible with surrounding area would not change the character of the existing development. It is located along 146th Street, which is designated as a principal arterial by the Master Thoroughfare Plan 2018. Staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions for staff? Okay. Mr. Doolin, you have anything to say? Okay, thank you. I'll ask just to make sure, do we have anybody here to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in favor? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Tomlinson and a second by Mr. Gloina. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Item carries 5-0. Now we can go to the next item, is zone case 3096I.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Padilla. This is zone case 3096-I. The applicant is Anoasis for GC Gabriel Holdings LLC, requesting to rezone from office to neighborhood commercial. We've sent out 50 notifications, receiving 0 in favor, 4 in opposition. This property is located east of Chicago Avenue, north of 114th Street. Here's the notification map. The ones in opposition have concerns of commercial uses in the neighborhood commercial district. Here's an overhead view of the property. To the north is a residential neighborhood. To the east and west is offices, and to the south is vacant land with a residential home. The current zoning is office. The future land use plan designates this property for office. Here are photos of the property and its surroundings. This is an overhead view of the property. The future land use map designates this area for office land use. While the proposed zone change to NC is not in conformance with this designation, it is appropriate at this location while fronting a major thoroughfare and near established NC zoning to the west. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. It will be appropriate at the proposed location. It's compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. The proposed rezoning location will be along 114th Street and Chicago Avenue. The Master Thoroughfare Plan designates 114th Street as a minor arterial and Chicago Avenue as a collector. And staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions.
Any questions for staff at this time? Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant or his or her representative here? Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Melissa Pena Garcia, and so I had submitted the application. We have been currently doing our services for 24 years, another one for 28 years. There's 3 of us in staff. We do strictly medical massage, so I have orthopedic surgeons, OB-GYNs that send clients to me. So I have over 85,000 clients in my business. So I seeked out this location because it's very professional, it's immaculate, it's a gorgeous building. And however, we are wanting to add a particular service. Currently, there are hair laser removal machines that a lot of people in Lubbock have. Regarding that type of hair laser removal, if you have blonde or gray hair, it cannot be removed. There is a new instrument that's coming out soon, and we're going to be the first ones in West Texas to have that machine. And it would allow for any male or female to have any gray hair or blonde hair removed because laser doesn't work. Some people don't like waxing, or the waxing is bad for their skin. Or, of course, sugaring doesn't work for everybody either. So it's actually something really unique. And so we're wanting to add that service, and we're also wanting to perhaps add another service that would help with balding type issues. And it's another different type of medical treatment. So in doing so, that would be considered more of a personal service, and that's why I was submitting the application for the request, so that I would be capable of offering that to my clients.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brad Nelson with BR Commercial Properties, LLC, located at 5416 114th Street. So immediately next door to the property in question, to the east. I actually had a chance to talk with Melissa earlier today, and man, I don't want this to seem overly oppositional. I am super happy to have her as a neighbor. I love the services she's offering. I think it fits really well in the office strip that we have, and I actually have no concerns whatsoever with her proposed services that she wants to offer. But I do have some concerns about a zone change. First, these are medical services that do not require a zone change. These medical services are allowed under the existing office zone as a medical office. And indeed, other locations within the same office strip already offer these same exact services. So this is not a change that requires a zone change. I understand that staff does believe that it would fall under personal services, but it does seem to fall under medical office. Second, this change to neighborhood commercial represents opportunities for things like packaged liquor stores, retail, a lot of things that my wife and I, we're small business people. She operates a psychiatric office immediately next door to the building, and we provide substance abuse treatment. And having a packaged liquor store right next to our building where we're treating people for alcohol dependence is pretty significant concern for us. And so, yes, I'm opposed to this. I'm not opposed to what the applicant's asking for in terms of the use. I think she should be able to do it. I think if we do determine that it falls under personal service, unfortunately, there is no specific use allowed for that in office. I think that the right thing to do for that would be to amend and allow a specific use for personal services. That's all I have. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If not, let's close the public hearing. For matters of discussion, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve is presented.
Motion by Mr. Noble,
Second.
second by Mr. Hardaway. Okay, Kristen, I got a question for you to go into it. When you go in, and I understand what he's saying about, can you explain the differences? Is what it is now already personal services? Is it been compliant since it's been there, being massage services and everything in there? Or was that considered personal services already?
I don't know what was in there before Ms. Garcia. My understanding from her, when we talked a couple of months ago, is her main intent is to have medical uses, which would be allowed as a permitted use under the office district, but she was looking to eventually add additional uses, as she mentioned today, which would be considered personal service. When we spoke, I don't know if she's still planning on doing this, she thought about potentially having microblading, waxing, more spa services, which would fall under the personal service.
Okay, thank you.
So, Kristen, So which specific services she wants to have are not allowed in the zoning, the current zoning?
So the laser hair removal, microblading, waxing, facials, those type of spa services.
Not
They are not
allowed.
medical.
Not allowed in office zoning,
Correct.
okay? But is
Massages.
neighborhood, she's looking for neighborhood commercial, isn't that a
Correct.
down zone from office? Would you consider that more restrictive?
It could be. Neighborhood commercial is our most restrictive commercial district.
Okay.
So yes, it would be.
So how is it that neighborhood commercial being more restrictive would allow these things that an office is less restrictive?
Depends on how you look at it. You know, the office, even though in the code, the way it's listed, neighborhood commercial is more restrictive, you're right. When you come down to the actual uses, neighborhood commercial does allow more retail type uses, so then it may not be considered a down zone.
Okay.
That's kind of a perplexing one. This
Yeah.
is
And
more,
there's no way to specific use in office zoning that it is now.
Not currently.
Okay.
If council wanted to amend the Unified Development Code to
Yeah,
make that change.
That's a whole nother
Yeah.
story. Amending the rules is not what we're talking about, so.
you know, it's one that I kind of go and agree with what he was saying about understanding, but, you know, I've always been one, even in the previous stuff, would go into a place where you'd have a center and would come in and somebody would want to rezone a specific suite within the center.
Yeah.
That's always just been kind of a upset with me, but, you know, it's
You're
tough.
talking about
Is this a
like, it
separate
looks like
structure,
spot
though?
zoning.
No, it's kind of like office deals, and hers
they're
is at the
attached?
back. Yeah, well, they're individual buildings, but I think there's different suites in each part.
These are, yeah, I think we're looking at the zoning of an entire office, like a garden office.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that smacks of spot zoning, really.
Yeah, that's with
I
me
mean,
too.
And so I get it. Yeah.
I've got a question. So one of the letters in opposition was from a HOA management company. And the comment is, this type of commercial change does not comply with current association restrictions/requirements. Does that have any purview for us?
No. That's completely civil.
I guess maybe I'm wondering more like if we did approve it, would they come back and try to get it out anyway?
Yeah, hey,
I'm not the zoning, but the,
Would the
Uses.
HOA try to
Yeah.
have the use removed? They could, but that would be outside our jurisdiction.
right.
hey, can we have the applicant back up? Please? Thank you. So along these lines, have you spoken with the HOA or whatever organization that they're talking about?
I actually haven't, but I was really, really curious about it because I did get wind of it. I do know that there is a Facebook page that is created for that area, and there's an individual who's responsible for it. And I actually have a client that lives in that area. So it was, but you can't just anybody join. You have to submit LCAT paperwork to the admin on this Facebook group, and the client is on there, but apparently they're concerned. There were concerns about traffic, like it's neighborhood commercial, meaning is there going to be people parking up and down the street and stuff like that? And that's all I know. I don't know any of the individuals. I just know that they were encouraged to call and oppose. But I don't think they understand what we do. And I try to offer services. So let's say there's someone with dark hair that would prefer to just have waxing and not use the machine type service because it's more expensive, then we can wax because we're all dual licensed. We have licenses with the state.
Yeah.
I'm just more about doing things at a very much more higher level. But something as simple as waxing is more affordable for the majority rather than paying over $100, whatever, per service. So that's the only reason I want to be able to have that capability. There are individuals that do eyebrow microblading around town. I have played a role in being an expert witness.
But my question was focusing on how have you tried to interact with the HOA to see if this is even allowable? I assume you don't own the building.
No, I
Okay,
don't.
have you spoken with the landlord to see if this would cause
Yes.
problems with him? And, because that would be the member of the HOA or the
Right.
office, whatever association we're talking about.
To be quite honest, I've been out of town. My mom just passed away on Tuesday with
sorry.
leukemia. So I've been with her for the last 3 months in Rockport, Texas. And when I found out, I mean, I was making it here I got here last night
Yeah.
just to come to this
Well, we're
meeting.
sorry about that.
That's okay. But, I mean, I've got a 20-year lease. If he plans on selling the building, I plan on purchasing it. I've already, expressed interest.
Okay.
But of course,
But-
you know,
But you don't know if this complies or conflicts with the HOA rules necessarily, specifically?
I don't think so. I don't think
Okay.
so. And
Well, I mean, I would hate for us to approve it
Right.
here, and you go back and make plans, and then the HOA takes you into court
Right.
to get an injunction for you to stop doing whatever you're doing.
Right. And I do have a client that I think the major concern of the individual that came forward, because I know that word has been, it's been stated and encouraged for others to oppose this. The major concern was in the future, like they're okay with what I'm doing, but if in the future, if the owner were to sell it, and let's say I don't buy it, and that owner decides to put in a liquor store, which, I mean, it's a garden office.
No, I know.
The building is
But
gorgeous.
what you get to, if the zone
Yeah.
changes, then that becomes, once we change the zoning, then it's not there just for you, it's there forever until
Oh,
it changes.
I
So
see.
that's why we
the
get to have.
concern, Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you, this is a first-time thing. I've never experienced anything like this, so.
Yeah.
I
You
didn't
tear
know.
down the building and put whatever you want there.
Yeah.
So the zoning stays with the
Yeah.
land, not the building, so.
So even if
Okay.
somebody decides to, let's say, tear it down because they bought it and they want to rebuild it, they'd have to ask for permission to build that building for that purpose, would they
Nope.
not?
No,
Oh, they wouldn't?
zoning.
They wouldn't be required to, oh, I
Nope.
see.
You get
I
a
don't know how
building
that works.
permit, but
Oh, I see.
be beyond that, I mean, I don't believe there's any other.
So in the building you're in, are you the only tenant?
No, there's me, so the owner has one suite, and he actually has 2 sons in there that, when he retires, they're taking over the business. I don't see them selling this building, to be quite honest. And then it's me, and then there's a business behind me,
So
and they
there's-
do,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I've got a question. Why, so we had issues, this is dating back years ago when somebody applied for a zoning change that didn't own the property. Did we ever deal with that, or I'm sorry.
Yeah,
what
the
was
property
we
owners
stuff?
signed the application.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. All right.
And one thing, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'll mention, when you look at the property, you'll notice that you have this row of buildings, right, multiple buildings, and they have a parking lot on the track surrounding them. I have not counted the parking spaces, but something else we would have to verify down the road if a different use wanted to go in, if this were rezoned to neighborhood commercial. Can they meet the parking requirement for the offices that are still there, plus this new use, which may have a higher parking requirement? Because if they can't, that use isn't going in. So just I wanted to mention that.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you, appreciate that. We have any more discussion?
The HOA has, that's within their purview, this building? The strip of
I don't know if
buildings?
it is or not, but it doesn't matter to us if that's correct.
I'm just wondering why we care what the HOA thinks.
We don't.
don't.
We don't care what they think. I was just.
But what he's saying is,
My whole point was, I was just asking her if she'd even checked with them, talked to them, if the building owners talked to them, and what interaction have you had there? Because this may be pointless if they're gonna take action afterwards.
He's just more like, don't go spend a bunch of money on
Yeah,
this
don't, I
machine
mean,
if
yeah.
yeah,
they're gonna
I
go
mean,
sue
they're-
you.
The HOA can say,
yeah.
no, we can't do this.
If
I
they
guess
go
that's why
sue
I'm
you.
confused. If they
Yeah,
can
they
sue
can
you-
get an injunction for you doing whatever is that, as long as they're enforcing, trust me, I've just gone through all this crap.
I don't have an HOA, so I'm.
No, I just
Yeah,
set,
HOAs can
I just set one up, and if you don't enforce it, then if you don't enforce the rules, then the rules fall by the wayside. You have to enforce the rules, it's like deed restrictions.
Okay.
If they're not enforced, then it's like any other law, if you don't enforce it, it's not enforceable.
I guess I'm just confused about like on the ground where the limits of the HOA's jurisdiction.
Oh, I have no idea.
We don't
Yeah.
know. Okay.
Yeah.
But Kristen, I want to go back and still say that if she was doing types of massages, that's not considered personal services, that's considered medical.
What was your question? I'm sorry.
If she's wanting to do the hair removal, but I think she does massaging, cupping and all that, that's medical and not personal services?
That's where it kind of becomes a fine line. Is it medical massage, which my conversations with her, the types of clients she sees that have specific medical issues that come to her for that reason? Okay, but if it's Woodhouse Spa, where anyone is just going and getting a massage, that's a spa, that's not a medical office. So we really have to have those conversations with the applicants to determine what they're actually doing.
Okay. We have
Look,
any
this is
more?
a tough one for me. I mean, I can see both sides of it, but I tend to lean towards what you guys are saying about, keeping it what
I
it
mean,
is.
it is a tough one when we go, and I drove by today, all the ones to look, and it's, my gut, my heartburn is taking a spot, like Scott said, almost spot zoning this spot. And, since it sticks with it forever, and y'all know this from me from before, when we go to shopping centers, that's heartburn. So, any other discussion? Y'all ready to vote? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay.
No.
Motion fails 5-0. Next item of business is zone case 3303-C.
Hello, Board. I'm Greg Hernandez with the Planning Department, and this is Zone Case 3303-C. The applicant is 17 Services LLC for SE4NS Properties LLC, requesting to rezone from Industrial Park to Auto Urban Commercial District. The property is located east of Frankfurt and south of 119th Street. 46 letters were sent out and received 2 back in favor and 1 in opposition. Here's a notification map showing the 2 in favor and 1 in opposition. No reason was given. Here's an aerial view of the property. To the west and east are developed with residential housing. To the south, commercial warehouse and city limits, and commercial properties to the north. The current land use map shows the properties to the west zone single-family district, the properties to the north industrial park, properties to the east medium-density residential, and the south single-family residential and city limits. The future land use map designates this property for residential low density. Here's a picture of the subject's property as well as views to the south, north, and west. The future land use map designates this area for residential low density, although the proposed zone change to AC would not be in conformance with the future land use plan or the comprehensive plan principles. The surrounding properties along Frankfurt Avenue, already developed as commercial properties, makes this location appropriate for AC. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. The property is located along an arterial street and is appropriate adjacent to nearby land uses. The proposed zone change is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. The downzoning from IP to AC is an appropriate district adjacent to the MDR land uses to the east. The AC district is suitable buffer between Frankfurt Avenue and the neighborhood to the east. The location is along Frankfurt Avenue, which is designated as a minor arterial street by the Master Thoroughfare Plan 2018. And staff recommends approval of this request, and we can take any questions at this time.
It's down zone, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Is the applicant or his or her representative here and wish to speak?
Hi, Kaylee Hernandez with 17 Services, 1500 Broadway Street, Suite 203. We're requesting a zone change. It's approximately 1.44 acres near 120th and Frankfurt. As he mentioned before, it is surrounded by industrial park, developed commercial land, even though the future land use map may show it as residential. The main reason we're requesting this downzoning is because the owner is wanting to provide ambulatory surgical center, possibly with a medical clinic. Currently, IP zoning permits hospital and rehabilitative care, but it does not permit medical offices. So we requested the downzoning to AC because it permits hospital, rehabilitative care, and medical offices. I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none, is there anyone to speak in favor? Okay, do we have a motion? We'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Tomlinson, a second by Mr. Noble. Any discussion? No discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Last zone case is zone case number 1947H.
This is zone case 1947H. The applicant is Clovis Sign Service for Southwest Convenience Stores. They're requesting a zone change from medium-density residential district to auto-urban commercial district. The subject property is located west of Frankfurt Avenue and north of 34th Street. We sent out 19 letters, receiving 1 back in favor. Here's a mail-out map showing the property in favor of the zone change. Here's an aerial view of the properties to the northwest and south are developed with retail uses. The properties to the east is developed with a disc golf course. The current zoning is medium-density residential. The properties to the northwest and south are zoned medium-density residential and heavy commercial district. The properties to the east is zoned high-density residential district. The future land use map designates this for commercial uses. Here are some photos of the property and its surroundings. These are the photos provided by the applicant showing locations of proposed signage. The future land use map designates this area for commercial land uses. The proposed zone change is compatible with this designation, and the proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and will be appropriate. Let's see. Located north of 34th Street and west of Frankfurt Avenue, the 2018 Master Thoroughfare Plan designates them as a minor arterial and collector street. The intended use will be appropriate at this proposed location. Staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions at this time.
Basically, this is going to be very similar to the one we had, I believe, last meeting at 50th and Quaker. That was a commercial zone that a long time ago was residential, correct? And this
That's
is just
correct.
trying to correct it into that, probably to help for their signs and stuff. Is that correct, Kristen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone here to speak in opposition of this request? Seeing none, is there anyone to speak in favor?
Good evening, Jordan Stowe, Clovis Sign Service, 1312 East First Street. Yes, basically the moral of this story is it's the same as the previous one, and I'm here to answer any questions.
I think we got it. We're trying to work to get some of this straightened out going forward, so thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gloina, a second by Ms. Tomlinson. Do we have any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, forgot to do it. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that ends our public hearings. Now we'll move into our work session.
Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to you if you would prefer that I go through the proposed amendments, or if you just have specific ones you would like to discuss. But first, I would like to just give a little bit of background on what we're doing here. So as you will recall, in May of last year, Council approved the Unified Development Code with an effective date of October 1st. So now we've been using it for the past 8 months, and the directive from P&Z as well as Council at that time was over the next 2 years to do a periodic review, determine what's working, what's not working, what might need to be clarified or changed. And so that's what we're doing here tonight. This is the first step in the process. I wanted to have a work session with the Planning and Zoning Commission to get feedback from you on the amendments that we are proposing, if you see any changes needed, if you're in agreement with them. After tonight, we plan, this is a tentative timeline that we still have to discuss with council, but we plan to take a resolution to city council at their regular meeting, June 25th, for them to adopt the alternative notification process, same as what we did last time. It's a 3-week process where we get the notification out through all sorts of types of media, as well as in print. After that, the notification process would be July 2nd through July 23rd, with a tentative joint public hearing between council and P&Z Thursday, July 25th. Planning and zoning could take action on the amendments at your regular meeting, August 1st, and then council could take action August 13th and 27th. So wanted to start with that, and if you'd like for me to, I can go through them, or if you have specific ones you'd like to discuss.
What I want to do is I want to kind of defer to some of my other commission members here, because I've had the opportunity, and I know we've all had the opportunity, but I know I've taken time that I've met with you and staff in regards to some of it, understand exactly where we're going. I just wanted to make sure that the other commissioners understand, and if they had any questions, I think we're making good steps on what we meant to do. I know some of the little cleanups we had, some of it is language definitions to, let's say, not be muddy, to be a lot more clear and more specific on what it would be. I'm good with it, but I would like to defer to them to let them know if they've had the chance to look over it, to study it, to go over it and had any questions, or if they wanted to go over it more specific.
Okay. And in addition to the list of staff recommended that you have seen, I do have a representative here from engineering who wants to discuss an additional amendment we'll be bringing to you as well.
Okay.
It's not drafted, it's a concept at this point, but whenever y'all are ready, she can discuss that as well.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask about the last one, number 75.
I'm glad you stated that. That will be removed from the list. It will be left as the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Then I have no further questions.
Okay. Just to go back, I know one of the ones we were looking at is because we were talking about spot zoning, and you've noticed we've had a lot is coming up on some of the sign questions. And part of it's to come up just like recently since the UDC changed and we've had all the ones for the convenience stores. It's trying to change it a little bit for their canopy signs, of what they can put on it and how big an area it can take. It addresses murals on buildings and a lot of stuff I know that's been discussions going back through. It's looking at some different setback requirements for cottage homes, setting restrictions for the size. Trying to go back and think off the top of my head to going through it. But a lot of it, to me, what I saw, I had no heartburn on looking at any of it, of what they had proposed at first. Matter of fact, a lot of it was a lot clearer, and I know one of them, I hope everybody was here that we came back, and I'm going to bring back up, is the signage. If we remember the church we had on Upland that had the problem, this would correct it for them. So in other churches like that. So again, I think it's one that, I commend the committee before and the staff and everybody to come up with a UDC because it's a lot of work. We knew it wasn't going to be a perfect instrument. It was going to be something that was going to have to work on, and I think one set of amendments isn't going to totally fix it, but I think we made a great stride on going forward. So, give y'all a second if y'all want to look through a little bit more to look at it before you ask any questions to go, before we go off, because I want to make sure it's fair to do it. We'll let engineering in. Are we allowed to ask Terry if he has any comments he wants to make?
You can call
Call him
anyone
up to do it. Terry, would you like to add anything, give you a few minutes to add to see what you've seen on some of the recommendations? You don't have to if you don't want to. I'm just wanting to see, you brought forward at the first about how there's been good communications, and I think that's the good part. And I know we got the stuff for the landscaping. I think some of this is not going to be one that we're going to be able to solve immediately, and I definitely don't think we want to get to be going, we're going to wait till we get this before we make anything if we have to part it off.
Right.
right. Thanks for the opportunity, and I'll be brief. So, yes, Christian sent out a couple of days ago sort of the final draft that you have in front of you right now. I have gone through, I think everything that is in the document is in principle what we all agreed needed to happen. To be fair and to be certainly fair to staff, only about 2 o'clock this afternoon did I send them my handful of recommendations. I certainly wouldn't ask them or you to consider them with any weight this evening, but the takeaway I think is that it's a good round of amendments. I'm a detail guy, and I'm used to reading things in this arena, and there are some recommendations that I have provided to staff only today, right?
Okay.
That we'll ask them to kind of consider before we get to, the first public hearing. But again, I need to stress, in principle, I think it's a good step, no question, yes. And I know you're digesting this maybe on the fly somewhat. I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but I don't want to weigh you down with a bunch of preaching from the podium at this point.
No, and we
Basically.
understand, and I know some of us, we
Yes.
got to go through it before. And like I said, it makes me feel better to see that at least we're coming to some understandings and taking some, for lack of a better word, some of it low-hanging fruit, the ones that we knocked off quick that we
Yes,
saw. This needs to be reworded, this needs to be changed.
Right.
Couple little deals where the tables were off to do a little cleanup, which
Yes.
when I visited with staff, I was, all the details and work that went into it, I think it was
And of the 25 pages that are in the PDF document that I printed, probably 10 comments that I've recommended. So we're not far off. I'll just put it to you that way.
thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
And Kristen, you said you had someone from engineering that would like to speak for us?
Hi, good evening, Chair and members. I'm Bailey Ratcliffe. I'm the Assistant City Engineer for the City of Lubbock. And like Ms. Saker mentioned, I have kind of a concept of a proposal or a proposed amendment I want to bring. We don't have anything drafted at this point because this is kind of a big shift. So we wanted to get guidance from this body before we drafted anything and get just guidance for city staff before we proceeded. So as you know, before UDC, we allowed utilities to be constructed in parallel with a building. So to get your final plat, you could post a letter of credit for your utilities and infrastructure, and you could install your water and sewer and paving while you built your buildings. With UDC, we shifted infrastructure installation away from platting. You can file a plat and not have to do any infrastructure construction, but you have to have accepted infrastructure before you pull your building permit. So water, sewer, and paving all have to be in place completely and accepted by the city before you can pull a building permit to start your building construction. So that was a really big shift. So one thing that we've seen is just the kind of the ripple effects of that big change, and especially on commercial projects. So kind of what makes commercial different than residential is typically for commercial, you have one GC he comes in and does all the utilities, paving, subs out electrical, everything. It's all under one hat, and it's done in parallel, and that works really well. But right now, we're not allowing that. So to get a commercial pad ready for a building permit, all the infrastructure has to be done first before any electrical, plumbing, foundation, any kind of permits can be pulled. So the proposal that we've kind of talked about in our office, we've kind of spoken with the development community to see if we're headed in the right direction with this idea, is possibly allowing utilities to be constructed in parallel with a building permit for commercial projects that are 4 tracks or less. So that would be kind of a compromise. We're still saying for residential, we feel it's appropriate for utilities to be completed before building starts. But for commercial, this might provide a more economic and appropriate construction sequencing for those projects. So do y'all have any questions? Or I don't expect y'all to give staff guidance just from the dais tonight, but as y'all kind of turn through that and ponder that, we would love your opinion.
Not being good and stuff, but it sounds kind of logical, understanding you're going to have to separate residential and commercial, it's two different things to be able to do, so, I mean, my first thing is that if y'all have worked with it, if y'all all realize it's created obstacles or detours for everybody, and that it is something that is amendable and fixable to be able to do it to make everybody little, I mean, I'm all for drafting something like that.
Why on commercial 4 tracks or less?
So that's a good question.
Why draw
You'll
the line
notice
there?
that designation shows up another place in your amendments list. And I believe that, Ms. Sager can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a planner, but I believe that's where we said you don't have to replat if it's 4 tracks or less. Is that right? Preliminary plat, thank you. You could go straight to final plat, that's right. So we were trying to be consistent with that designation. If it's a project this size or smaller, we can take a little bit of a different path. So that's where we got that line in the sand. You kind of have to, you could say all commercial regardless of how many tracks.
But you're coming, if we said, oh, we made it easier, you don't have to replat, but you're gonna have to do this now.
Right, and so, and I think you could draft it different ways. You could draft it where they can follow the residential tract if they want to. They can construct all their utilities before they pull a building permit, or they can do it in parallel. We wouldn't require them to do it in parallel.
But they've got the either or option.
And if they do it in parallel, are you still going to require the deposit or credit?
Yeah, we would still do a letter of credit, and so we hold the letter of credit until they complete it. And then another mechanism that makes commercial different than residential is on commercial you can hold a CO if needed. So we wouldn't issue a CO to a building that doesn't have water or sewer service. But with residential, it's a little bit different, so.
Gotcha. Okay.
So is this specifically to speed up the efficiency of construction?
Yeah, so the construction sequencing just makes a lot more sense this way to me, because you're not paying a contractor to mobilize for utilities, demob while you get your building permit, and then remobilize to build the building.
It's less red tape,
Yes.
and I would imagine, not being in the building business, but I would imagine that there's more red tape for commercial than there is for residential anyway.
Maybe so.
You get your construction trailers out there one time.
One time.
So I don't remember how you worded it, but is there an ask of us tonight, or is this more informational?
No, really, so I took a stab at a first draft of this, and this kind of has big ripple effects because the UDC doesn't have two different tracks for if you're developing commercial, follow this path. If you're developing residential, follow this. And so I looked for different places in the code of where should we stick this, and there's some ripples that I want to make sure I follow before I present something to y'all, because I don't want to propose an amendment that introduces a conflict somewhere else in the code. So that's why I don't have an amendment ready for y'all, but wanted to get y'all's appetite towards this to see if y'all are even feeling positive towards it before I draft something like that.
I think this is exactly why we have the revision meetings, is because we're going to run into things like this where it's like, oh, we didn't cover that because we didn't know we needed to cover that. It didn't occur to us. But this sounds reasonable to me and very practical, and removes an impediment to others. Yeah. So, and it does not seem to me that by removing the impediment, you're inviting some other problem. So.
Yep, agree, if you
No, I do
follow
too.
those ripples.
Okay.
Follow the
Well, I
ripples.
appreciate it, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I
Yes.
mean, it's like, y'all are the ones who deal with it every day, along with the builders and the developers and stuff, and we've got to rely a lot on y'all for your opinions and try to do it, and we try to make sense of it on the other end, so, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kristen, do you have anything else?
I did have one more question, I'm sorry, I
Go
forgot,
ahead.
and
Ask
Bailey
away,
coming
we
up
wanna get it
reminded
covered.
me. We have a letter in here from the Lubbock Alliance of Landscape
Yes.
Architects. Was that,
So you have 2 additional documents in addition to the staff recommended list, the document you're referring to from the landscape architect group, and then as well as other citizen recommended amendments that we've received. We kept those separate from the staff list because we're not recommending those at this time, but they are there if you want to discuss or consider.
And Tanner, some of I'm gonna say, she had that on part of it, and I think Terry addressed it too, because I think that's what he was saying earlier about some of the ones that we've got to look at it to be able to come in. And I think it's one that's gonna take a little more study, but they've got, like I said, they got the other two, and some of the amendments that the staff's recommended are in what the developers did too. So it wasn't just like, we've got three and then try to combine them to make them all work to what they could. Because I did look over some of the landscape ones, and some of it makes sense, but I'm not an expert on it. I don't really know what the ramifications, the ripples would do. You know, as long as we kind of can stay around the main intent and not veer off too much, I'm pretty good with.
Seems to me that from what I've seen of the staff recommendation, it's this thing where let's clean up some things that we weren't anticipating.
Yes.
And there doesn't seem to be anything that's really
Major.
controversial
Yeah.
in here. It's just cleaning up things that we didn't anticipate. The proposed amendments from the landscape architects and from the citizen proposed, that seems like that's more policy that should be considered and discussed, because that also has ripple effects. And so that would be something that I would think would merit more discussion at some point after we've had a chance to digest
To
it.
digest it more. And I think really that's more of us to kind of give it heads up, because when we come up for our public hearings and stuff, we'll be having some more discussions and.
Sometimes there's a gap, but it's not necessarily a gap. I mean, it doesn't have to be a gap, but there's a gap between what we idealize for policy and what people who have the boots on the ground experience. And so, you know, when engineering comes up, or even when, you know, professional contractors come up and say, this is what we've experienced, this is a problem, this is an impediment, then I think that carries a lot of weight. It's not to say that we should discount the idealized policy, but we have to figure out how, if we need to implement that, and then how we need to implement that. It's a little more complicated.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated.
It's a little more
It's also
complicated.
called trying to compromise.
So I think that the boots on the ground recommendations, I think, are usually fairly easy to go, oh yeah, that makes sense, you know. Things like 75% of plant material consists of native plantings, and you get this many extra points, which is a citizen proposed amendment. That's something we really need to discuss. I think it's a great idea, but it may have ripple effects that we don't anticipate. So,
Thank you, Susan. Anyone else have anything? Okay, Kristen, thank you very
Thank you.
much. It is 7:03 and the meeting is adjourned.